Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Burkhart-Worley, along with Dr. Michelle Burden and Renee Rollins, and welcome to Pop Talk. We're the show where you never know what topics might pop up. Well, this week is very special because we're taping the programs at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, and we're at the Expo today, a day before it opens, so you might hear some noise behind us of people moving things around. But we're just excited to be here. We're thankful to Overcomers TV as well as Mike Lindell for making this possible. And our first guest today is Gaylyn Williams. Gaylyn is the Executive Director of Relationship Resources. She's an award-winning author of 41 books. The book we plan to talk about today is called, and I love this title, All Stressed Up and Everywhere to Go. Have you ever felt like that? You're all stressed up and everywhere to go. It's a book that she wrote with her father, Dr. Ken Williams. And stress is such a great topic, Gaylyn. I mean, we're all stressed out. Now, we're here at NRB and we say we're not stressed, but we are, because we're on a very tight schedule. So this presents some stress as well, but every day has its stress. So why do you think we're so stressed out, especially in this country?
Why? Because, well, partly it's because we try to do too much. We expect too much of ourselves. I've heard many people say, I'd rather burn out than rest out. Well, either way, you're out. So I want to run the long haul. But yeah, there's just so much going on in our lives.
Is there any way to get out of that stress if there's that much? Do we need to just cut some things out?
Well, there are some principles that we can work through that help us with our stress. And those are ones that I've been teaching people, but I use them for my own life when I start to get stressed.
Okay.
When I remember, when I'm not too stressed to use them.
Well, you can't admit to that because you wrote a book about this.
No, I do still use the principles because they work.
Yes.
You know, before you wrote this book, you trained, and we were talking about this before we started taping, really not just 50,000, but close to 100,000 people, right? For how to manage stress effectively. So I want to talk about that. Why did you decide, after doing all of that, to actually write a book? Tell us about that. What was the experience?
Well, because the principles were only available to people if they went to a workshop, and I really wanted to make them available to anyone to be able to work through it, because I did it as a workbook so that people can work through the steps on their own whenever they want to.
That helps to focus. You know, when you have a workbook and you're reading through something, I think that God really speaks in those moments, doesn't he?
Writing things down, accountability. I know I love to write things down, especially when something speaks to me, or maybe there's something I want to get rid of, a bad habit. I'll write that down and say, okay, this is it. I'm not going to do this anymore. You know. So I think that does help.
Yes. So what have you found to be some of the health issues that can be caused by stress? Because we know obviously it affects health. So what are some of those that you found?
Well, let me just say that most health issues they've found have to do with stress. They're either caused by stress or they're made worse by stress. So it's just about everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
You know, I'm an overachiever. Nobody believes that, I know, but it is. Ever since I was a little girl, I've just always done more than maybe what I can handle, and I do get stressed out. In fact, at one point in my life, I struggled with anxiety, had some panic attacks. I realized that I had to let go of some things, and so I think that's a byproduct of stress. Yeah. So can you tell us about some ways that we can reduce the stress in our lives?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to learn what stress is and how it affects us, because so many of us think that it's the stress situation, it's the thing that happens that causes us to be stressed, but it's partly that, but that's just a little piece of it. It's what we bring into the situation that causes stress to be much worse. So it's our internal stress. It's things like our expectations, our attitudes, our sore spots. So it's places where we have wounds, where we have fear or resentment or unforgiveness, those types of things, or anxiety. Those types of things can make any stress situation that we go into much worse.
How do we identify those though? I mean, how do we know? Sometimes I think we act out of what we know and how we've grown up. How do we identify them?
Well, I think it's important to just take the time to like you were talking about, writing it down. And so one of the first things that I have people do is write down all the different ways that they're stressed, and there's a whole bunch of different categories. But I think it's important to write them down. And like when I go through this whole process on my own, I'm always surprised that most of the things on my list are these internal stressors, not the external ones.
Wow.
Really? Wow.
Even though I've had a lot of serious external ones.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we need to pay attention to that, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting down to the heart of it, isn't it? When you write those things down and you really ask the Holy Spirit, okay, what is going on here on the inside that I'm wounded in, right? That I need to recognize that you're bringing to me right now in this moment, Lord. And that is such a good word. And you've actually published 52, one for every week.
Exactly.
Stress management tips. So I just want to talk about, if you could tell us a story of someone that you've really helped. I mean, this is completely free. Give us a testimony about how this has helped someone.
Well, the one that initially comes to my mind is there was a pastor who was just really overstressed, and I don't think I realized how overstressed he was. And so I sent him a copy of my book, and I found out later that he was on the verge of suicide. Wow. And it stopped him from taking his life because it gave him hope again.
That's huge.
So that's like the most extreme.
Yes. But that is a ministry. What a story.
And how do you train people? How does it work?
Well, it's a workshop, so people have to come ready to work. And it's 3 to 6 hours, depending on how much time I have. And I do them by Zoom as well. Mostly for people in Israel, I do them by Zoom. But people come and we do some teaching, but a lot of it is them just working through each one of the steps.
And you wrote this with your father. Can you talk about working with your dad on a book?
Oh, we had really enjoyed it. We had fun. We actually traveled around the world training missionaries before he passed away.
Yeah. Wow, that must have been wonderful. Yeah.
Did you write it with him in Israel?
No.
I was just curious.
We never went to Israel together.
Oh.
And Glenn, you did mention Israel, so I do want to shift to that subject for just a minute. We're all supporters of Israel here at Pearls of Promise Ministry, and you live in Israel part-time, which I think is incredible. I love that. In fact, you've written a book about Israel called Explore God's Heart for Israel. So can you talk about why you wrote the book and about why we should have a heart for Israel?
Well, why we should have a heart for Israel is because God does.
That's right.
But I was raised believing that God had laid Israel aside, and now the church has taken over all of the promises, and yes, we can claim them, but they still are for Israel. But so that's replacement theology, and that's a type of anti-Semitism. Yes. But there's so many Christians that believe that.
Right.
And so as I started studying the scriptures, then I started recognizing, wow, there's so much in there that the Bible has to say.
It's good that you're speaking to people about that, but why did you end up moving to Israel part of the time?
Well, after I went there the first time in 1999, I knew I wanted to live there as much as I could, and it wasn't until 2016 that I went back and then started living there half the time.
So were you there October 7th, 2023?
No, I wasn't. I have a lot of friends that were there though.
But you probably have been there since then. How has it changed?
Well, there's definitely a lot more stress in the air.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of, so much trauma.
Yeah.
So much trauma and hurt and pain. The believers, though, are really hanging in there, and they are doing, you know, it's amazing how they're doing.
Well, I love it that you live there part-time. I think we'd all like to live there
Yes.
part-time.
Yes.
We love Israel. I'm ready to go back. It's been since 2023 that I've been there. I went twice, and Michelle and I actually went together on one trip, and I think it's time. I'm ready to go back. I love the land. My dad was Jewish, and so I just have a heart for that. Well, thank you so much, Gaylyn, for sharing about, first of all, your love of Israel here, but also about how to manage stress. We all need that help, and you can find out more about Gaylyn's outreach at her website, relationshipresources.org, and if you sign up at her website, listen to this, you can receive 52 stress management tips. Her book with her father, Dr. Ken Williams, is once again called All Stressed Up and Everywhere to Go. You can find that book on Amazon.com.
Overcomers TV, streaming now. Download our app on your smart TV, Roku, Apple TV, and more.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
In 1953, Jack Drake set up a borrowed tent on donated land just east of the Navajo Nation. There, Four Corners Home for Children was born. Since then, over 2,000 children have passed through our doors, and there's always room for more. Our House of Hope offers shelter to children in crisis. The House of Faith is a long-term home where children can grow and thrive. Our House of Grace provides life skills training to older teenagers as they work toward independence. The Four Corners Academy for Excellence provides educational opportunities in an environment conducive to learning. Navajo Nation Outreach provides for the needs of the Navajo people. Addiction recovery, food distribution, providing Bibles in the Navajo language. Four Corners Home for Children, serving in Navajo land since 1953, a place for children to call home.